Y'all, and welcome to Shade and the City. It's your girl Treese here, and of course, I had to try to run up here and give y'all the recap for episodes 61 and 62. That would be Wednesday. And today's episode of Beyond the Gates. And don't forget, for all our members, we will be going live 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So yeah, hopefully I can get this out before we do that. Okay, but we're gonna have a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss. Can't wait to see y'all. But yeah, let's jump right into it. And yeah, I don't think I have a song yet, but I'm sure I have a few throughout the recap. But y'all let me know what y'all think and what y'all would rate this these two episodes of Beyond the Gates. But anyway, let's get into it. And let's get shady. All right, y'all. So, I normally always try to give y'all, you know, split it up for y'all. So, if you have not already watched today's episode, there will be, a timestamp for you so you can cut it off and watch first if you want before I get into and spoil it for you. Okay. But this is episode 61. As we know where we left off, episode 60, basically Haley was playing in Chelsea's face. And basically is telling her, it's normal for a child to want her parents to reconcile. Chelsea asked how she would know, with her being an orphan and all. And I said, ooh. I said, you should have known better. These Duprees read. They know how to read, Haley. I don't know what you thought, maybe because she was the younger version that she won't gonna get up in your ass, but she absolutely did. So Bill basically checks her and was like, look, that was unnecessary, Chelsea. And so Haley tells him, you know what? It's a good time for you to let Chelsea know where we stand. And this aggravated the out of me. Okay. So then Chelsea lets her know that there is no way in hell that Bill and Danny will ever be getting back together. So Bill agrees with her. And Haley tells Chelsea that, she's sorry that she's so upset about it. But the sooner she accepts it, the better. I give Tracy. I give Chelsea all the grace in the world. I really do. Chelsea responds and says, newsflash, I'm not about making anything easier for either one of y'all. And then walks out. And I said, that's right. So then Haley turns to Bill and she's, I'm so sorry I had to do that. It's just my hormones. Again, you've been pregnant for all of 5. Stop it. Okay. I'm gonna let her live, y'all. I'm gonna let her live. I'll wait till the live to go in, but she really bothers me. Okay. Tells her that, she has the best reason in the world to be a little funky. Okay. And tells Haley that, we're starting a family now. And so she's like, well, I guess it's a good thing that you set up that college fund. And so he's like, yeah. And then he starts to talk about money, but then she claims she don't want to talk about it. So that's when we see Martin walk in and he interrupts and he says that, Haley, go somewhere. Me and Bill got some catching up to do. So Bill tells Martin that, look, me and Haley are clearly in the middle of something. And Martin said, I don't get what you're doing. And I'm sure whatever this is, it can wait. Because what I have to say cannot. And so Haley offers to excuse herself. And Bill's like, no, you stay right here where you are. And tells her that Martin must have forgotten who he was talking to. And he tells him he needs, and he tells him that anything he needs to say to him can be said in front of Haley. And Martin tells him, not this. Okay. So Haley's like, look, clearly that man ain't gonna tell you till I leave. So let me just go over here and make a couple fake phone calls or whatever. So Martin tells him that he plans to keep it short, but it definitely will not be sweet. And Naomi and Jacob apparently are at the country club as well. They just finished a cute little game, I guess, one-on-one basketball. And apparently Naomi has, whooped his butt. Okay. As they're doing that, they notice Haley in the lobby. And so Naomi actually comes over and greets her, which I thought was big of her. But then Haley tells her And oh no, and so then Naomi is like, oh well, are you here with my dad? And Haley tells her, yeah, because we're here celebrating. Like Naomi cared. And I love when Naomi was like, okay, and just walks off. And so Haley's like, well, aren't you interested to know why we're celebrating? And of course, Naomi's like, no, not at all. I have no interest whatsoever. So back at the table with Bill and Martin, Bill tells Martin that he knows he's there because of the conversation that he went and had with Smitty. And Martin calls him out for telling Smitty that basically they were on the same team. Bill says, well, I'm a lot of things, but I'm definitely direct and I always say what I mean. So Martin tells him, look, that's the problem. And it's in Smitty's DNA to ask questions as a reporter. So why would you basically dangle that bait in his face for the most part? Bill says basically he knows that Martin handled it, and tells Martin that, it must get easier for him to just lie every day like he does. So Martin tells Bill that he has a death wish, and Bill responds that his ambition is writing checks that his position can't cash, and warns Martin, you better be careful. You better be careful with your impulses or it won't end well. And Martin warns Bill that if he ever tries him again, and so Bill stands up for him. And I was like, whoa. And lets him know that he's in no position to go against him, knowing what he knows. So back over to Naomi and Haley. Naomi makes it very clear that she is not interested in anything in whatever they're celebrating. And Haley reminds her, but we used to share everything. And Naomi said almost everything. And says the friendship ended once Haley decided Bill was a better catch than being her best friend. And I said, well, I don't know, Haley, why do you keep messing with these Dupree women? I just don't understand. You have to know that it's coming. They always have a rebuttal. It's okay. It's in their DNA for real. So then Haley's claiming that that's unfair for her to say. And she said that I've told you several times that I miss our friendship, like that's supposed to matter to somebody. And Haley plays dumb, like, I don't understand why you're not interested in having anything to do with me. So finally, I think Jacob was tired, just like we were tired of hearing her say this, and said, look, we didn't forget what you did, okay? And so Haley claims that I just thought that time would heal all wounds. And I thought that, since we're more than friends now, we're family. Haley tells her there's still plenty that connects them and that they could have more in the future. And Naomi tells her she's delusional, okay? And she's not sticking around to find out whatever this is a waste of her time, and leaves. Now, as we know, last episode we saw Jessica kiss Tyrell. And shout out to all of y'all in the comments who validated me and let me know that I was absolutely not crazy and I was not the only one that thinks these girls is damn near twins. And they are not related in real life. Okay. And shout out to my girl Stacy Lynn for dropping in the comments and letting me know that they are not related in real life. Okay, I appreciate that. So basically, she done kissed Tyrell, and so Tyrell apologizes to her, and Jessica's like, I'm confused why you're apologizing. So Tyrell tells her that, look, you came to study, and I don't want you to think I'm trying to take advantage of you. So Jessica reminds him, I kissed you. And Tyrell is just really having a hard time believing that she actually likes him and feels like, something just ain't right about this. And I got to give my girl her things. Now, whether this be true or not, whether he just has a self-confidence issue or if my girl really is right. She had said one time in one of her recaps that she absolutely thinks that Jessica is up to something. And I don't know but when I saw this play out, I said, oh, might really be have actually caught something on her line. I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments, but I thought it was interesting. And so, yeah, he's just having a hard time believing that she actually likes him and even thinks that she might be playing a prank. and that somebody put her up to it. So Jessica then is like, you know what? I ain't got time for this. And she calls him insecure trash and walks out when Smitty happens to walk in and it's like, well, what the hell happened? And of course, Tyrell isn't going to talk about it and runs up to his room. So, warning. I mean, the fact that we only got 4 episodes this week, and the fact that you literally shoved DNA down our throat for a whole week last week, you would think that we could just have the week off. BTG. I'm just saying. I put in my request and clearly you didn't approve it. All right. So DNA are out on what's supposed to be a romantic date, but they're at All Free Jeans. Okay. So she suggests that once they're finished, that he can come and sleep over. And Derek then takes this moment to decide to give Ashley back the key to her apartment. And I said, yeah, how romantic is that, right? So Ashley tells him that, well, no, you can keep the key. I mean, you do plan on coming over again at a certain point. And this was just so hard to sit through. And so basically he mentions something about her neat and tight apartment, but he says it multiple times throughout the conversation. And so Ashley finally decides to address it. And Derek tells her that he loves her. And he said that he loves her and her standards, but he wishes that he could live up to them. And so she's questioning whether they should want more out of their relationship since they've figured out that, hey, we've been dating for this long, but clearly we can't live together. And I was like, I don't know what y'all thought, but literally while I was watching it and I was making my lunch, and I said, I got to ask my Shade Squad, but from a real life perspective, right? If I know people have done it, I think what Cheryl Lee Ralph don't live with her husband. But to me, and this is just IMO, I think that if you realize that you cannot cohabitate together, you probably shouldn't be together. I don't know. And like I said, I've sat up here and gave y'all my stories and shared my personal, but if we weren't able to work through it, guess what we wouldn't be doing? Me in one house and he in another, still dating each other, playing sleepover. No, we're not doing that. So I don't know, but y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. So basically Derek lets her know that he does want a future with her, and that he has already laid it all out for Jacob. And so then we conveniently see Naomi and Jacob walk in, and Ashley tells them, you know, she's happy to share the news that they talked and decided that they love each other too much to live together. And I said, that's what you got from that? Okay, whatever. So now Chelsea goes over to Danny's, and unfortunately she can't get a word in because Danny is excited about some famous influencer who wants to work with her. Finally, Chelsea is like able to cut her off and lets her know that she has something to tell her. Danny continues to go on with her rambling and even accuses Chelsea of being extra, because Chelsea was like, Ma, you doing too much, you being extra. So Chelsea finally said, look, Haley is pregnant. So Danny, in my opinion, at the time, seems to have took the news much better than I think we all expected. And so Chelsea admits that, you know, she wasn't as cool when she heard it. And Danny said, Haley is young and fertile, and, you know, Bill might be too old to change diapers, but he'll pay somebody to do it. And then she starts going off about Bill being old and all the other old men at the country club and with the young kids, and questions whether those old men really fathered those babies. And so Chelsea is confused as hell because she thought that they were talking about Haley. And I was like, Danny, yeah, where are you going? I knew where she was going with it, but I was like, okay, Danny, you're definitely throwing your line out there, right? Danny tells her that, you know what, maybe they are, and asks Chelsea if she's thought about Bill not being the father of Haley's child, and then suggests that Haley might even have a side piece. So, of course, Chelsea's like, oh, God, here she go. So then she starts searching for the announcement because she knows Haley can't wait to brag. And I was actually surprised that she didn't find something. So Chelsea thinks that, you know what, Ma, you really doing a lot. You really putting 30 on 5. Okay. He tries to convince Chelsea that basically she doesn't know Haley like she does. And she's like, you know, she's definitely been planning this for days. So then Danny even goes as far as to speculate that Haley is just faking the pregnancy in general. And I was like, well, wow. We went from putting 30 on 5 to 40 on 2 now. But what y'all think? Do y'all think she's faking it? And we're gonna chop it up. We're gonna talk about it tonight. All right. So we're back at the country club, and Bill is warning Martin that, look, if you step to me, then you better come correct, because there's no second chances in my world. Okay. And Martin wants Bill to explain why he's dangling what happened in front of Smitty, and asks if that's his way of sending a message to him. Bill tells him, yeah, I have my own agenda, just like you got yours. So Martin knows this means Bill wants something, and Bill says that not right now, but I will eventually, and I don't want to be forgotten. He reminds him that, you know, I'm still looking out for your family, and that Martin might one day need his services again. Martin says there's no way, but Bill reminds him that there's still a debt to be paid and his favors are not free. Bill then tells him the risk he took to handle his situation and says that he just didn't fix the situation, he fixed him. So then Haley returns and Bill tells him, we're done here, okay? Haley invites him, you know, why don't you stay and have a drink, Martin? And Bill decides to share the news that they're expecting. So Martin calls Bill out, you know, he starts giving him a round of applause, and he calls Bill out in front of the country club and calls him a parasite in a suit. And Bill warns Martin, he said, look, you should pay mind to where we are. But Martin continues to go on and tells Haley that Bill is worried about his reputation and people seeing him for the vulture that he is. Haley wants to know, what the hell are you talking about? And Bill blames it on Martin having some type of episode, okay? Martin tells Haley that what she shouldn't ignore is the man that she married, or the father of her blessing. Took me out, y'all. Took me out. I mean, it was the real neck roll for me, okay? So Martin starts running down Bill's offenses and says has Haley sitting there looking all uncomfortable. So finally Bill is like, look, Martin, I ain't gonna warn you, but one more time. Martin continues to talk about how Bill manipulates the law and profits on other people's pain. So yeah, Bill tries to clap back, and Martin tells Haley that she needs to run far and fast before her baby turns into an arrogant bastard like his father. So then he and Bill start tussling. And then we realized it was all a dream. I would have really liked for this scene to be real. I don't know how y'all felt about it, but I really wanted this to be real so bad. But then we see how it actually really went down, which is Martin congratulating Haley and excusing himself. And then we see the creepy YT man. Okay. That's what cause somebody asked me in the comments what I mean by that. So that's what I mean. Okay. And he follows Martin out the country club. Then Haley tells Bill that sometimes he scares her. And Bill responds, well, you know, sometimes I scare myself. And then they toast to their baby. So then she's like, well, what was that all about? And Bill blames it on helping Ted with pick 6. And that's what Martin was really, you know, they're confronting him about. And I said, well, I mean, talk about being quick on your toes, because that was actually a very reasonable excuse. And then they get into discussing baby names and, again, things that no one asked for. So back at Danny's house, Danny has decided that she needs a drink, and she's talking to Chelsea about how she thinks this whole pregnancy is a farce. And Chelsea wants to know, well, what would be Haley's point in faking a pregnancy? So Danny says, well, there's profit in her performance. And Chelsea doesn't think Haley could. How would she fake a pregnancy for 9 months? Like, Chelsea's like, Ma, you're really doing the most, okay? And so she's like, you know, you're just looking for the most toxic explanation ever because it's Haley. And so Danny says she'll conveniently lose her baby and then be looking for sympathy. And she explains how sympathy is currency in Fairmont Crest, especially when everyone besides your husband hates you. And so Chelsea asked her mom, like, look, are you going to be able to handle it if Haley really is pregnant? And Chelsea asked if she really thinks Haley is faking it, or is it because you can't face her having a baby with Bill? I said, well, and honestly, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. And again, I can't wait to talk about it this evening. But being really honest, I can't tell you. I'm even after watching episode 62, I can't confirm nor deny. And I don't even want to give it a good guess because obviously I don't want it. But I don't know, y'all. But we'll talk about it in the comments, okay? We see Martin return home and Smitty is waiting up for him. And he apologizes for, standing him up at Offrey Jeans. So Smitty asks, well, how did how did it go with the appropriations bill? And did it pass? Martin completely disregards that question and starts asking about where the kids are at. So Smitty explains that, look, there was some drama between Jessica and Tyrell, and I ain't figured out what happened yet. And so Martin's like, well, you're an investigative journalist. I'm sure you're going to be able to figure it out. So then Smitty calls Martin out and says, I know that the vote didn't happen. And I was like, I love this for Smitty. And Smitty lets them know that, I heard they called a recess and I got the notification on my phone before you even left Offrey Jeans. And so he was like, if you wanted to check Bill for coming at me, why didn't you just say that? And so Martin tries to gaslight Smitty as usual, but finally he admits that he did go to see Bill. Martin asked Smitty how did he know that he went to go see Bill, and almost like, do you got eyes on me type thing. And Smitty was like, no, I ain't got nobody watching you. I just knew by how angry you were when you were talking about it. Martin blames it on Bill using Smitty, and he thinks that that was unacceptable and says that if Bill wants something from him, then he needs to come to him directly like a man. And I couldn't agree more. So then Martin shares that, oh, and by the way, Haley's pregnant and he knows Danny is going to lose it once she finds out. And I said, I don't know. Smitty be like right here and have him, and he just let Martin say whatever. And I'm feminine if it's when, yeah, he loves to flip it and reverse it. Okay. And then the last scene, we see Bill and Haley return home. And Bill wants to celebrate their new blessing. And so Bill goes upstairs, and I guess he's going to give her some special treatment because we know she's pregnant. And that's when Danny walks in the house because don't nobody ever lock their door, or apparently Bill still has not changed the code. And so she congratulates Haley and says that, and so of course Haley is like, well, why the hell are you here? And said, because I know it's not to congratulate us. And yeah, that was the episode. I mean, that was the end of episode 61. So let's get into episode 62. Now, Danny, as we know, is at Bill and Haley's. So she's there to confront Haley about this baby, and she tells Haley that Bill Bill has a soft spot for babies, and now he'll have 2 babies in the house. And I said, that's funny, Danny. That's funny. Then tells Haley that her baby is imaginary. And I said, I guess, girl. Okay. Of course, then she goes into something about a Stradivarius, which is a violin, and she's trying to play Haley in her face, and Haley's like, well, I know what that is. And said, and maybe our child can learn how to play so then they can play you a swan song. And I said, okay. So Danny compliments Haley on her clap back. And Haley lets her know that, I'm good with my words because I have an education and I studied law and language where all you did was learn how to do a 3-point turn on a runway. And I said, ooh, ooh. I mean, for once you said something. But Danny tells her that, what, modeling takes precision and strategy, and doesn't think Haley would be working so hard to prove her point if what Danny was saying wasn't true. And Haley said, look, you really just can't handle the truth. And unfortunately, that doesn't make it less real. So she accuses her of just being jealous of their unborn child and calls it pitiable. And Danny makes it clear, I am not jealous and my kid raising days are over. She said, I am just shining a light on your latest lie. So then Haley tells Danny that her words are just empty as she is. And she says that her proof is growing inside her. Then lets her know that she is absolutely pregnant with Bill's child, and she can either accept it or let it destroy her. But either way, she won. What do they say? Stupid games win stupid prizes. Okay. So Haley warns her that, if you keep getting up in my face and denying my child's existence, I'm going to make you regret ever crossing me. And I said, so Danny's like, little girl, I hear the desperation in your voice, right? And so Bill comes in and warns her that she needs to be careful what she says to his wife. And Danny's like, look, I want to know what you plan to do about it. And what are you going to do? Call the police? And so she said, because, clearly you must really miss me because you keep trying to drag me into legal dramas. So Haley's like, look, Haley tells her, you need to get over Bill. And Daddy responds that Bill needs to get over Bill. And I said, well, that is a very true statement. And Danny then goes on to warn Haley that once that baby is there, Bill will do everything to steal the attention away from her. And then she tells Bill that his child is a figment of his desperate wife's imagination. When I tell you how I kikied, okay? And Danny says that she made it up so she can sink her low-class claws deeper into her. Now, back at Ted's hotel, we see that he has gotten a text from Kat saying that she'll come by later on to check on him. So he gets at the knock of the door and he assumes that, I guess he assumes that it was going to be Kat. And unfortunately, it's not. It's Pick 6 and another bad shake and go wig. Okay. And she asked Ted if he's going to let her in. And Ted tells her no, because I didn't invite you over. And so she threatens to make a scene if he doesn't. So she starts, once he lets her in, again, why didn't we just call security, Ted? Am I the only one like that looks like a really nice hotel? I'm sure he even mentioned security. So why was that? I'm with Kat. I'm with Kat on this one. She lets him know that she's there to talk about Eva. And she thanked him for helping Eva get her chair at the salon and Ted said, I did not do that for you. And he said, is that's all you here for? Was to thank me? You can go. And so she decides to, at this point, make herself comfortable. She takes a seat on the couch and even tells Ted to make her a drink. And he lets her know, look, Kat is on her way over and I do not need her seeing us together. So he's like, look, if you done, then you can go. And so she said, no, I'm really here to talk. I'm concerned about Eva. I said, girl, bye. All right. So then we jump over to Doug, who gets a call from Joey and he wants to know, like, I'm not sure who called who, but they're on the phone and he's like, I'm not sure why you're taking it so easy on me. And he's like, and I also seen you with Vanessa. And Joey says that, well, me and Vanessa got a real estate deal going. And so Doug mentions that, well, no, it seemed like a little more than that. It seemed like you like her for real. And he said, and I feel like if I don't get you what's yours, then you're going to take what's mine. And I said, you have the correct understanding. Joey tells him, yeah, now you're using that brain that got you that medical degree. And he said, look, Vanessa is very intelligent and can be extremely valuable to me. So Doug said, look, I just want to make sure that you just talking about business. And of course, Joey's like, of course I am. And then we see Vanessa walk into Uptown. So he gets off the phone with Doug and lets him know that he'll see him at the casino later. And so Doug promises that he's going to be there. And I ain't even going to hold you. I love the way Joey tried to set old boy up. I did. I ain't even going to hold you. I loved it. So Kat happens to walk into Aubrey Jean's and she's talking to Jacob and she tells him that they need to find out if Leslie was the nurse that hurt Laura and if Eva was in on it. And she's telling him, look, this has just been going on too long and we can't let him get away with this. And so finally she shows Jacob some footage from the hospital. And I said, how did she get this footage before Jacob? And so then we learned that Andre has gotten in on it and helped her out by going to talk to hospital security. But I said, why? Andre does not have a badge. Why is he doing more work than Jacob? Jacob, I think we need to put you back on desk duty because what are you doing? Not investigating? Anyway, so she explains that she believes that the nurse that went into Laura's room was Pick 6, of course, and thinks that, Mona will be able to help them identify her. So Jacob, of course, tries to politely tell Kat to allow him to do his job that he's not doing. And he said, look, we prove that it's Leslie, and we have to make sure that the video hasn't been doctored or manufactured. Kat also points out the dates on the video and said that that was the same night that Laura had had her heart attack. And it was the same day that Shanice saw the mysterious travel nurse from Providence. So then she asked Jacob, well, have you been over to Providence to ask them yet? And Jacob said that he had spoke with the staff, but nobody recognizes her and knows of any part-time or temporary nurse. So Kat feels like, well, I really feel like we're getting closer, and I just need Mona to confirm that it's pick 6. So of course Mona walks in the door at that point. And she's like, well, why the hell am I here so late? And so they show her the video, and Kat, I gotta call the thing a thing. Kat absolutely was leading her, which I was gonna say that unfortunately, if they did try to ever take her to court, that if she had a good lawyer, if she had a bill, and maybe I'm wrong, any of my legal shade squad, if any of y'all are in the legal world and y'all can correct me or confirm, but if I'm not mistaken, wouldn't that have gotten the whole case like thrown out? Or at least that piece of it, because she pretty much tried to lead Mona into saying yes. I don't know. Y'all let me know. I ain't go to nobody's legal school. I just watch a lot of Law and Order, okay? Mona first says, oh, well, I'm sure it's Leslie. But then says, okay, I can't be sure. So Jacob asked her, well, can you look again? And because I need a positive ID. So Mona tells him what she thinks, and she could see Kat, kind of getting disappointed in her. And she's like, look, I promise you we're not friends anymore. And I'm just really not 100% sure that it's her. And I said, well, that's really dope of Mona, even though, Mona, you're falling back down the ladder, because the way that girl lied in your face and played in your face, this was a perfect get back. But I understand, and I guess I gotta give Mona her things for being honest, I guess. But I wouldn't have been mad if you took the low road to hell. Not at all. Especially not after she played in your face at church. That's Judas right there, baby. That's Judas. Oh, I would have sung like a canary and been lying like a. I said what I said. Okay. Now, so Kat tells her, well, you know what? I'm on my way to see my dad, bring him some food. And so Mona said, oh, that's so, I would send my regards, but I'm a little disappointed with your daddy. And so Kat admits, look, my daddy is not perfect, but I'm still his daughter, and I want to make sure he's taking care of himself. So Mona tells her that, look, with everything going on and finding the time to Mona basically tells her that with everything she has going on and her finding the time to try to find out who hurt Laura and hold them accountable, that she's very proud of Kat. And so Kat leaves, and then Jacob looks at Mona and asks her, look, is there anything else that you want to let me know? And Mona tells him that, look, we met in church, and she used her to, get dirt and get close to Ted and Nicole. And so the one piece that she does give him is that anytime Pick 6 opens her mouth, she's lying. Just believe it. She's lying. And I said, well, that's true. Now, back at the Hamilton house, Bill is accusing Danny of baseless accusations and says her jealousy knows no bounds. So finally, Haley admits that there's no baby, or we think Haley is admitting to there being no baby. And she says that only Danny could have been the one to discover her true motives and her dark, devious intentions. And she's saying this with a smile, so we clearly know that she's toying with Danny. Haley tells her that she's never seen someone so with such a devious mind, and tells her that she spends too much time thinking about her. So Danny responds, only enough to sidestep your schemes, you little, okay? And so Danny reminds her that, you know what, I am a Dupree, and you will always be known behind the gates of Fairmont Crest as a homewrecker. One of the H's, okay? And so Bill cuts her off and tells her, look, he and Haley found love in a hopeless place. They found love in a hopeless place. Yeah. And Haley said, look, I can fight my own battles, okay? And so Haley asked, look, can you please leave? And before Danny does, she said, please know that once I walk out this door, you're going to fall into tears, collapse into Bill's arms, and try to prove that this pregnancy is real just to knock me down a peg. And Danny says, you can have at it because I know what I know. And literally, as soon as she walks out the door, Haley does exactly what she said without the tears. So back at Ted's hotel room, uh, I'm sorry, this so Pick Six is telling Ted that the other day Eva asked if they would ever get back together. And Ted said, never, ever, ever. And so, of course, he's like, no, he didn't believe it one bit. And he makes it clear that there will never be a Ted and Dana reunion, and said that she can assure Eva of that. Six questions if there was ever anything real between the two of them. And he's like, I am not having this conversation with you. That is off limits. And so she plays like, well, no. And I really want to co-parent. And my notes say, Eva is grown. And she is literally over here like, well, we need to help her make life choices and decisions. And she has important things. And I'm just like, Eva is grown and is very capable of having a separate relationship with Ted and a separate relationship with you. She doesn't need y'all to co-parent. That really tickled me that that's what she tried to go with. But again, she's delusional. That's, yeah, okay. So Ted says that Eva might need guidance, but he can't see the two of them offering it to her because they are not on the same page. So she says, well, why can't we be on the same page? And he has to remind her, because you came into town to destroy my marriage. And he said, what could Eva possibly learn from you about goal setting? So Pick Six tells him that she deserves the harsh feelings that he has towards her, but says that he deserves the harsh feelings that Nicole has towards him. And I said, ooh. However, she asked him if Nicole punishing him makes it right for all the innocent people involved, his grandkids, Martin, Eva, Kat. And Ted says that it doesn't. And so she's like, okay, so we agree on something. And I said, see, Ted, why are we having this conversation? So she said, can we forgive each other for Eva's sake? And Ted said, stop. And this is as she is pouring him a drink. So she asked him to sit down so they can finish their conversation, and says that, I thought that we had gotten past the hostility. And so Ted, look, he said, what was the context of the conversation that you had with Eva? And she tells him, well, just come sit a little closer to me on the big comfy couch. And so she said, now I'll tell you all about it. And so, like a dummy, you big dummy, Ted goes and does it. And then Pick Six starts talking about Alan and how he was her safety net because she was scared of Bill and him finding out about Eva and hunting her down. And Ted reminds her, look, that was years ago. And so then she keeps going on about Alan, as I don't know if y'all noticed that she continues to scoot closer to Ted on the couch. So then she tells him that Alan was so dismissive towards Eva, and it made her long for this knight in shining armor dad that she was thinking about to swoop in and save them. And Ted said, and you didn't have nothing to do with creating that fantasy? And I said, Ted, I love that you know. I just wish that you knew better, but I love that you know. So Pick Six tells him that, you know what, I missed you. And once upon a time, we meant something to each other. And she said, am I making that up? And Ted said, you know what, okay, maybe I do owe you an apology. And said, we met at a very difficult time in my life. And he says, but I do regret giving you any type of hope. And says that you can go make it clear to Eva that Nicole is the only woman I'll ever be in love with. So, of course, Pick Six tells him that Nicole rejected him and has him sleeping in the hotel as he should be. And said, well, that's because she's hurt and she has the right to be. And that's because of us. And I said, well, there's some accountability. Um, and he tells her that he's apart from his wife, and he's apart from his wife because of her. So Pick Six tells him, you're still the same man that I fell in love with. And Ted is like, please, just stop embellishing. You're doing a lot. They start yelling, and she tells him how she's just repeating back what he said to her. So Ted tells her, look, that was a lifetime ago. Let it go. He asked her to leave again, and she says that she's convinced that he doesn't care about her, but asks, do you care about Eva? And so Ted says, of course. And I'm currently building a relationship with her. And so she's like, well, at least something good came out of the all of this. And then she like goes to touch him, and you can see that, he stops her mid-air or whatever, but he has her hand so that she can't touch him, right? And so he said, He said, He said, I will not hurt my wife any further, and tells her this is where I draw the line when Kat walks in, of course, shocked, clutching her pearls. Her flabber is gasted. Okay. And Pick Six, of course, feeds into this and starts rubbing all on Ted while he's trying to explain to Kat that it's not what it looked like. And Kat tells him it looks like she's there in his hotel room alone having drinks. And I said, that's what it looked like. So Pick Six lets herself out, but not before calling Kat a brat. Okay. She said, let me make sure I let you know that before I leave. Kat goes into scolding Ted for, letting Pick Six get that close. And says, she doesn't believe anything that she said, but said that he should know better, especially when things between him and Nicole are so bad right now. And she said, you know what, Daddy, I ain't got no words for you. And so Ted pleads with Kat not to let Pick Six destroy, what they're trying to repair right now. And Kat said, it's not her destroying it, it's you. I said, you better tell him. And she tells Ted, and since he can't seem to stop getting so wrapped up in her orbit, maybe he does want to be with her. So of course Ted denies that, and Kat isn't even interested in anything that her father has to say. And she leaves, but before she leaves, she said, hey, maybe you can run down the hallway and catch her before she leaves the hotel. I said, woo, okay. So then we see Vanessa and Joey. They are flirting at Uptown when he invites her to his casino to gamble. They get down to the casino, and he has Vanessa sit down in what would have been Doug's seat. And then of course he asked the dealer, like, where was the guy that was sitting here? And he was like, oh, he said he had an emergency. And we see Doug hiding behind the corner. And I said, you are so bitch made. It literally makes me sick. So Vanessa's won. And, she thinks Joey let her win, but, winning money makes anybody happy, right? So she's feeling real good. So then she tells him that she wants to play another game. And then Joey kicks everybody out the room and tells the dealer to lock the doors behind him. And then we finally get the Vanessa Joey love scene that we all been waiting for. At least I could say I've been waiting for it, because I've been waiting for them to have sex. I said I wanted to see them have sex. I was tired of seeing her have sex with every time Dick and Harry. At least maybe that'll be her regular cuddy buddy. You know what I'm saying? All right. Let's jump over to Bill. He's asking Haley, like, look, are you definitely pregnant? And Haley was like, I would never lie about that, and just said that, I just said that to get under Danny's skin. And like I told you, I really don't know whether she is or not. So Bill tells her, I have a reputation around DC for being one of the best strategists, but says sometimes you give me a run for my money. And so Haley's not really sure how to receive that. But Haley says that, Danny angers her to no end, and she's tired of taking the high road and blames the reaction on hormones. Y'all, I'm going to be very honest with you. If this is going to be Haley cutting up and blaming it on hormones, I am not going to cover it, because I need her to own her okay? If you want to cut the bitch out because they said something, you just say that. But let's stop blaming this on hormones. Ugh. So Bill tells her that he believes her over all others, okay? And Haley questions if they'll have to deal with Danny's antics the whole 9 months. And so Bill told her it could be longer than that, since they did move into her community. I said, thank you. Let's acknowledge what it is. And he suggests that, maybe we could move. And this is how you know Haley doesn't want peace. This is how you know every day she wakes up and chooses violence because Bill gave you an out. Start your family, go raise your baby outside of Fairmont Crest where you can have some peace. But that's not what you want. You want to be a Dupree, something you never will be, at least to our knowledge right now. Even your marriage to Bill can't make you a Dupree. And even being married to Bill can't make Fairmont Crest accept you. Okay? So, of course, she declines it and says that, she'll wait for Danny, to get distracted by something else. And so Bill said that Danny will just have to get used to her new reality. And he asked her, well, what's going to happen with our sex life? What's going to happen while you're pregnant? And so apparently we learned that he had to abstain from doing so, I guess, with Danny. And Haley reassures him that they will continue to have a very healthy sex life. Okay. Now, let's move on to Danny. She has walked into Uptown. It's not even open. That man was very nice to her because he told her the last call. We did that already. And Danny, of course, drops her name. And so he said, all right, I'm going to go make you drink myself. She's going through baby photos of Chelsea and Naomi. And then she has the thoughts of her conversation with Haley. And you could tell that she's literally, she's crashing out. Okay. And of course, Doug walks in, and so she tells him sit down, and she has the guy make Doug a drink. So now you got two, but I'm sure this server really want to go home. He was probably really trying to clean up and go home, and y'all only open, like, you're the only reason he's still there, probably. Okay, so and then she respectfully lets Doug know that he looks like something that the cat dragged in. And Doug said, well, that's how I feel. And I said, well, you should. Then we see pick 6. She is in her shake and go, celebrating in her magic mirror at home, giving herself more affirmations and grandeurs of delusion. Okay. And she thanks the universe for being good to her. And that is where we ended, y'all. So yeah, thank you so much. I doubt that I will get this up in time. But if you have not already, please make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure that you comment. Make sure you subscribe. And make sure you hit the notification bell. And make sure you're following us on all the platforms. That's the TikTok, IG, Blue Sky, and the Facebook. And I will catch y'all tomorrow to close out the week. And for my members, I will catch y'all in about, there is no way I'm going to get this out in time, but I will catch y'all in 30 minutes for the live. See you then. Have a good night. Bye-bye.